Hello and welcome to Makeshift Minis.
Today I'm gonna be making a skeleton warrior. It may not have taken 206 steps, but it certainly felt like it came close. I start as I usually do by straightening out a paperclip and cutting it into more useful lengths. Taking one of the sections, I bend a hook onto the end. Using a pair of pliers, I clamp down the hook around another wire. Once I center it, I hot glue it in place to form the base of the hips. I use my pliers as a spacer as I bend the wire down to shape the hip. I add more hot glue afterwards to make sure nothing comes loose. I start sculpting the pelvis before I add too many other pieces, otherwise there would be too many things in the way. After making a few passes, I add a line of hot glue to make a circular shape to complete the pelvis. To make the ribs, I begin by cutting up a strip of plastic into small squares. It's a time-consuming process, but one by one, I cut off the corners of the pieces of plastic, rounding them out and softening the edges. After trimming down one of the squares, I poke a hole in it using my awl. I then thread it on the wire that will be the spine before gluing it down. Once the plastic's in place, I cover the edge in a line of hot glue to shape the ribs. I then repeat this process 3 more times until I have a stack of 4 sets of ribs. After all 4 sets are in place, I add a line of hot glue to secure them together and form the sternum. With the body mostly done, I add a wire to the back of the skeleton for the arms. After I glue down the frame, I sculpt the shoulder blades. I bend the arms down to get them out of the way before I begin shortening the wires. As I trim the wires for the limbs, I do my best to keep everything relatively proportionate. Once everything's trimmed to length, I begin posing the mini. With the pose planned out, I attach the pile of bones to a cork for some detail work. Once it's in the cork, I add hot glue to the legs to shape the long bones. I also add some hot glue to the spine to lock the pose in place. I add hot glue to the end of the pieces of wire that I cut off earlier to attach it to the legs. Once it's firmly in place, I cover it in hot glue to shape the tibia and fibia. Before I attach the spear, I need to bend the wire into a thrusting pose. Once I'm satisfied with the position, I add hot glue at the shoulders to lock everything in place. Attaching this spear is a bit tricky since I'm trying to place something at the end of the wire. However, once I get one side tacked down, it's easy enough to glue down the other side. With the spear in place, I can start working on the fingers. I only have so much room, so I sculpt 3 fingers on the bottom of the spear and the thumb on top. Like before, I used some of the scrap wire to make the long bones. With the skeleton for the bones in place, I cover it in hot glue to bulk it out. Making a head bone for this bonehead is probably the most difficult part of making the mini. I start by adding a blob of hot glue at the end of some spare wire, which I rotate and cool to make sure it's relatively round. I continue to add hot glue, rotate it, cool it off, and shape it afterward until it's a good size. Once the head's big enough, I use the tip of my hot glue gun to bore holes for the eye sockets. Attaching the head bone to the neck bone is easy enough. All I do is embed the wire and glue it down. Cooling off the hot glue, however, looks rather unfortunate. With the mini complete, I mounted on a bottle cap for a base. I used my awl to make pilot holes for the wires in the feet before gluing it down. After priming the mini brown, I give it a base coat of terracotta. I get a decent color by mixing a warm brown and a gold yellow. I make sure to get as much coverage as possible from head and shoulders to knees and toes. Once the base coat is dry, I mix some ivory and yellow to dry brush on the next layer. I try to avoid the spear, but it's not always possible. Since dry brushing doesn't take very long to dry, and I have the ivory paint right here, I begin working on the next layer of paint. Going through progressively lighter colors gets decent shading, even though I have little to no idea what I'm doing. To give the skeleton a little more character, I paint the eyes red. With most of the paint finished, I touch up the spear with a coat of brown to fix any mistakes I may have made. To put the finishing touches on the spear, I paint the tip black before giving it a metallic coat. Well, now I'm in the final stretch, and it's time to paint the base. Unfortunately, I couldn't keep my hands paint-free this time. I had a lot of fun making this one, and I think it'll look great on the table. Amusingly enough, I initially planned to have this closer to the New Year's, but decided against it as it was kind of morbid. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Take care, be well, and until next time.